Hello everyone and welcome to the Whenever I Feel Like Doing It awards show. I'm your host, ChrisTheFields, and today we're talking about this 2023 year in video games. I got too fat for the suit. Doesn't fit me anymore.
2023 was an absolutely incredible year for video games. Unless you make video games. Game releases went crazy this year. From big boys to small boys to old boys to new boys to downloadable boys. There were so many games coming out that it perplexed me that videos popped up in my YouTube suggestions that were titled, "Gaming Isn't Fun Anymore." So allow me for the next few minutes to inform you about some truly great games that have come out this year. The Best Art Style Award. Vernal Edge. It's very rare when I buy a game purely based on how it looks from a screenshot. And by very rare, I mean, it happens all the time, I'm incredibly shallow. But something about the way that Vernal Edge looked just spoke to me. Pixel art games on the independent level have come a long way, and this might just be one of the new frontrunners in artistic strength. It has really beautiful 2D pixel art, which is both stunningly detailed and superbly animated. Being a game that takes place in the sky, it captures all the imagination and beauty that comes with it. Just feels cozy, man. But if you really want to talk about beauty, then check out this overworld. The ship as a 2D sprite against a low-poly, low-res overworld is just absolutely comfy. It's like the whole game hopped out of a PlayStation and traveled 25 years into the future for the rest of us to bear witness to. And shout out to the character designs and especially the game's facial portraits. I always love a game that has some good faces. It's really not an exaggeration for me to say that it's primarily because of Vernal Edge's beauty that I really wanted to see the whole thing through, and behold what it had to offer. The Best DLC Award. Xenoblade Chronicles 3: Future Redeemed. I don't talk about Xenoblade Chronicles very often on this channel, but the series has made an incredibly deep impact on me. The first game is even on my shortlist for being one of the best games I've ever played. Xenoblade 3 was actually an interesting case for me. I fully anticipated it would be my personal game of the year for 2022, and yet when the game concluded, I was neither disappointed nor amazed. It ultimately didn't feel like the culmination of an entire decade that it was supposedly building up to be. Now I hesitate to say that the Future Redeemed expansion was the game Xenoblade Chronicles 3 should have been, but it's no surprise to me when I mentally reflect on playing Xenoblade 3, my mind defaults to Future Redeemed. The expansion is where the game is a lot more direct in connecting the series together, and it really feels like this is the actual continuation of the story. The fact that Shulk and Rex are characters in the same party, the fact that they've both changed their battle styles to reflect that of their mentors, the fact that Matthew is literally a Xenogears character in terms of his battle style, the fact that they threw in a radio broadcast over a super emotional cutscene and which conversation you desperately wish would shut up directly correlates with how much of a Xeno fan you are. It's all incredible. Ultimately, Future Redeemed didn't change my mind on Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in the same way Torn of the Golden Country made me appreciate Xenoblade 2 more. However, even as a piece of content all its own, it's still a condensed and fun RPG that I quite enjoyed. The Best Movement Award. Pseudo Regalia. It didn't take me more than a minute of seeing Pseudo Regalia in action before wanting to play it. Trust me when I say this game feels as good as it looks, where every single move the player has is a tool in the box, a paint stroke on the canvas. It wants you to play the game in your own way, to not follow the designed path and just have fun with it. The movement tech is phenomenal, and it's interesting to see what speedrunners are already doing to crack it open. Because even slow McGees like myself have been able to piece together some really cool things without any external collaboration. Let me tell you how good the movement in this game is. There's a major key needed to reach the final area, which is designed around the ability to wall run. Well, guess what? I got that key before I even knew wall running was in the game. Whether it was intentional or not, the fact that the game was designed around making major upgrades optional for a time is fantastic. And that's why I imagine I'll be coming back to Pseudo Regalia again in time. If I ever desire a game where I just crave the need to move around, I'll know exactly where to find it. The Best Mega Man game since Capcom is too afraid to make one themselves award, Gravity Circuit. Isn't it wild that Mega Man 11 can be the best-selling game in the franchise, and that's still not enough for Capcom to push a needle in any discernible direction? I don't want to sound too entitled or anything, but I really thought we would have heard anything by now. Well, all that means is I have to look in different places for my serving, and once again, the indies pull through. If you're like me and were hoping for X9 to have been here already, you should know that Gravity Circuit is the next best thing. It's most clearly influenced by the original Mega Man X, but there's a bit of X6, a bit of Zero, a bit of Legends, and even a bit of Shovel Knight for what it's worth. While it wears the inspiration on its shoulders very plainly, Gravity Circuit is still able to carve out a unique identity for itself. Its graphical style is a pleasant middle ground between the 8 and 16-bit eras of gaming, and its combat is more about getting up close and personal with melee attacks and grapples. Weapons and powers from bosses are instead replaced with a completely customizable set of special moves, all for your choosing. And for those who it matters to, yes, the game does in fact have a grappling hook. For some of you, I know that constitutes an automatic purchase. So until Capcom finally decides to maybe cool it with the Resident Evil remakes and try again with the Blue Bomber, I can rest comfortably knowing that phenomenal games like Gravity Circuit are keeping the spirit of the series alive. The Best Controls * Award. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I can't say that I was exactly in the mood for a 2D Mario game this year, but Super Mario Bros. Wonder caught my attention with its wonderful aesthetics, and the fact that the reviews and public opinion came in saying the game was a masterpiece only made the decision to try it out that much easier. But when I went on to play the game, something became extremely evident. This game actually sucks. No amount of charming art style, unique level design, or being able to play as Daisy could change the fact that the controls were really bad. There's nothing that kills the vibe faster than poor game feel. I was a bit distressed. Is this really right? Was 2D Mario always this loose? Surely I'm not being nostalgic. I remember the older games feeling way better than this. So then in a rush panic, I hooked up my Super Nintendo and started playing Super Mario World again. And even after only a couple of minutes, I knew I was right. Something about these older consoles and their controllers. They knew how to make them work. That's when it hit me. Maybe the standard Switch controllers aren't actually the right fit. So then I hooked up my Super Nintendo controllers to the console, and here we go. Now this is more like it. It is truly amazing just how much of a difference the right controller can make. This is why Wonder has great controls with an asterisk. Wonder is truly a refreshing and creative game, the best the Mario series has seen since at least New Super Mario Bros. On the DS. The problem is that the game requires the right controller. And this is coming from a psychopath that is no stranger to playing 2D platformers with analog sticks. Get yourself a D-pad, a good D-pad, and indulge in this excellent Mario adventure. The Best Special Move Award. Berserker. The Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure. Oh dang, that was pretty sick. The Funniest Italian Award. Peppino Spaghetti from Pizza Tower. I love Pizza Tower. Holy heck, my dude. But more than Pizza Tower, I just love its main character, Peppino Spaghetti. Peppino is hilarious for a bunch of different reasons. For one, his name is literally Peppino Spaghetti. Two, he's this almost amorphous and yet consistent character. Every single frame of Peppino is almost a character in themselves. No matter if he's scared, laughing, or just plain badass, he can be put into any situation, doing anything, and it just works. It makes Peppino perhaps the most gifable character to ever exist. And I think that the various gifs of Peppino circling the internet have contributed to the success Pizza Tower has found. And the third reason Peppino is so hilarious is that when he gets cornered and trapped, the beast bares its fangs. Nervous wreck no more. This man is charged, locked and loaded. Fear no longer exists within this specimen. The gloves haven't just come off, they've been off. Every single obstacle in his way only makes him stronger, faster, and deadlier. This whole tower is crumbling under his unshakable willpower, and he's not gonna stop until he gets it. Absolutely. Pizza! Perfect! The Best Character Award. Garl from Sea of Stars. In many RPGs, our protagonists are characters of extraordinary circumstances. They might not be gods or godlike beings, but most are someone who is special apart from regular people. They commonly associate with other similarly extraordinary or special people. So in an ironic twist, the most unique characters an RPG can portray are people who are completely ordinary by our own metrics. Garl is turned away time and again for not being special. He's not supposed to be on this journey. It's too dangerous for him. And his dissenters are not entirely wrong. Even in combat, all of his options can be done better or more efficiently by someone else. And yet, every single time someone tells him no, he simply meets them all with a smile. He isn't stupid. He knows when it's time to step aside. But he still wants to be there all the same. The Solstice Warriors don't need Garl on their mission, but a pair of Solstice Warriors without Garl is a team that would have never succeeded. Even if Garl doesn't do the important stuff, he still does the most important stuff. Wherever there's a friend to be made, he's the first one to greet them. If there's a new experience to be had, he's the one that jumps in before anyone else. If there's a problem and he can solve it, he's always the first one to try fixing it. It's true that Valair and Zale want to help people, but it's Garl's mission statement to do everything he possibly can for the sake of others. And what I find so refreshing about this character trait is that it's not informed by a backstory, or a character flaw, or failing in a previous life. Garl is this nice because that's how he chooses to live. The smile on this man is just infectious. Look at him, he's so happy. I'm happy. Sea of Stars is a game that tells a story about friendship, and the many forms it can take. From our protagonists to supporting characters and even antagonists, almost everyone has a bond which they value. And it's easy for Garl to find a friend in just about anyone. He never lets pettiness, jealousy, or spite ever reach his heart, even when the actions of others have wronged him. Someone who instinctively steps in front of danger for others, and would do it again without hesitating. Someone who could wish for anything in the world, and would only ask to spend a little more time with those closest to him. If we all had a friend half as good as Garl, maybe no one would consider becoming a villain. The Game of the Year. The Legend of Zelda and Final Fantasy are two of not only the most critically acclaimed video game franchises of all time, but some of my favorites as well. Nearly every entry in their mainline catalogs holds the classification of being many people's favorite game of all time. Before the year even started, I knew that 2023 was going to be a battle of giants. Which one was going to stand tall as my personal game of the year for 2023? If only I knew that both of these games would not even be a factor in the equation. I have a lot of favorite games of all time. If you ask me what my 10 most favorite games are, I'll come back to you with a list that's roughly 100 items long. Despite that, it is also a list that is extremely difficult for a game to penetrate. Not even I can consciously tell you the exact criteria a game needs to fulfill to fit the consideration. That being said, I'll always be able to tell you exactly when I'm playing a game that makes the cut. Hi-Fi Rush is one of my favorite games of all time. It was lightning in a bottle that did so many things I wanted to see while being something I had no idea I wanted. The concept of combining rhythm game inputs with the framework of a character action game works too well. It just makes everything in the game look and feel cool. But even if it didn't have the gimmick to it, this would still be a fun game to play. The vibes are absolutely on point. The rhythm aspect just throws in something extra on top to make it feel that little bit more special. Some would argue that it's a flawed game. It's a little underdeveloped, there's obvious signs of cut content, The difficulty balancing is not as tight as it could have been, but even still, the game was perfect. At the end of the day, Hi-Fi Rush ultimately stays true to what the team wanted to create. There's more heart and soul in this supposedly budget game than almost anything else I've played in the last few years. This game isn't replayable because it has content beyond the main story for players to try out when they've rolled credits. This game is replayable because it's a game that's so much fun that I want to experience it again, however I could. When I wasn't playing Hi-Fi Rush, I was probably watching someone else play it. And when I wasn't watching someone, I was probably still thinking about it. And when I wasn't thinking about it, I was playing it. In French!
Merci. Merci. Oh, vous avez vu le vaurien qui a fait ça?
That's the defect!
Quoi? Non, c'est juste que... Bon, si vous insistez...
It wasn't just a game which I felt was an exemplary title released during the year, but one that I've thought about and reflected on the entire year. Not only did it come out of nowhere, being shadow dropped the same day it was announced, it proved to be a tough act for every other game that came after to follow. In the future, when I think back to 2023, I'm going to remember the opportunities I've had, the places I've been, and the time I spent playing this goofy little game. So to the people who spent thousands and thousands of hours arguing, building, and polishing this game, just hoping that someone would enjoy it, all I can say is, no sweat.
Wait a minute. Didn't a Fire Emblem game come out this year? Why isn't that on the list?